There was a stream in which I had a better sport than in any others. The Mu Yi on the western slope of the Rocky Mountains. A small stream, very rocky, clear as crystal, icy cold, and so densely wooded on each side that fishing in it, unless by wading, was impossible. I remember one pool as being particularly productive, a rock basin with a little rivulet dancing into it through a pebbly reach. The water so beautiful clear that everything in the pool was visible, as though one looked into an aquarium. I could not help standing and feasting my eyes on the trout playing about in it. To say the pool was full of fish is no exaggeration. All with their heads toward the little stream were gently sculling their tails to steady themselves. I gazed upon a mass of fish, big and little, from 4 ounces to 3 pounds in weight. Having sufficiently indulged in admiring this host of trout, the like of which I had never seen before, I began the war, dropping my sensation fly into the little stream. I let it sink and drift into the pool. 20 open mouths rushed at it ravenously, and trout after trout was rapidly landed on the shingle. I continued the scheme until a heap of magnificent fish were piled at my side, and the trout was rapidly thinning. One crafty old fellow, however, that looked about 3 pounds in weight, defied all my efforts to tempt him. I let the fly drift over him, under his nose, above his nose, but he scorned it, and if he could, I felt that he would have winked his eye derisively at me. To have him I was determined, so sitting down I scooped out the eye of a fish and put it on the point of the fly hook, then let it drift down the stream and into the pool. Steadily it neared his nose, and in breathless expectation I waited the result. He was evidently uneasy, and knew not what to do. It floated past him, and I thought my bait had failed, when round he turned and dashing viciously at it, seized, pardon the joke, the hook and I had him fast. Being far too heavy to risk jerking, I let him get over his furious fits, then towed him ashore, hand over hand, gathering up my line. I got close to him, and seizing him behind the gill, I brought him upon the shingle, and a beauty he was. I have tried various expedients, more as experiments than anything else, to find out what bait these trout really preferred. Grasshoppers they took readily, and I have often caught a trout where only one leg of the insect remained on the hook. The white meat from the tail of the river crayfish is also a favorite diet. Earthworms I could not try, because they do not exist in British Columbia. But all my trials and experiments failed signally in discovering anything that could at all compare with my first fly. The trout spawn after about October, or perhaps a little later, depositing their ova and gravel in the lesser streams. Salmon trout had a trifle more than a fourth of the total length, maxillary extending to a vertical line drawn posterior to the orbit. Color of the black dark greenish inclining to gray, a lighter shade of the same color on the sides. Beneath silvery white, thickly marked above the lateral line with the yellowish spots interspersed with others that are bright red. In habits and distribution, the salmon trout differs in every respect from the preceding. There can be no doubt that this fish is anadromous and comes up into the rivers to spawn at particular periods of the year. Like the salmon and the returns to the sea in October, the great run begins into all the rivers emptying into Puget Sound, the Dwarmish, Nisqually, and Puyallup, and several others up the Fraser and its tributaries, into all the creeks and inlets about Vancouver Island. Crowd in shoal after shoal, they vary in size. I have seldom seen them exceed 3 pounds in weight. The advent of these trouts is the was signal from a general Indian fish harvest. The banks of all the little streams are soon dotted with temporary lodges, and every one from the naked little urchin to the stalwart chief wages war upon these fish. All sorts of expedients are used to snare them. Boys, girls, and old squaws catch them with hook and line, about 8 or 10 feet long, tied to the end of a short stick. The hook, made of bone or hard wood, is baited with salmon roe. The Indians never use the roe fresh. Dried in the sun, it becomes extremely tough and acquires a rank, oily smell. These fish take it greedily, and in this manner large numbers are captured. Another bait, equally fatal, is made by cutting a large strip from the belly of the trout and keeping the shiny part outermost, winding it tightly around the hook. From the barb to about an inch up this line, securing it by twisting white horsehairs closely around it. A small pebble is slung around a foot from the baited hook, and the line tied to the canoe paddle close to the hand, paddling slowly along the water. This bait is trolled after the canoe. The intention is manifestly to imitate a small fish. As we troll with minnow or spoon bait in our water, all the larger fish are generally taken in this way. They rise readily to a gaudy fly and afford admirable sport. But the great haul of hauls is effected by a most indigenously contrived basket. In principle, the same as our eel baskets. It is made of split vine maple, lashed together with strips of cedar bark. These baskets vary in size. Some of them are 15 feet long and 6 in circumference. The crafty savages place their wicker traps in the center of the stream. A dam of latticework on each side reaches to this bank, so that no fish can get upstream unless through the trap. Another plan, and a very good one where the water is shallow, is to build a little wall of boulders, rising about a foot above the water, slanting the wall obliquely until the ends meet in the center of the stream at an acute angle. At this point, they place the basket. By this plan, all the water is forced through the basket, increasing the depth and strength of the current, and in happy ignorance of the danger, the fish fly steadily up current until they suddenly find themselves caged. When a sufficient number of fish are in the basket, an empty one is carried out and set. The other are brought to shore. Its contents are turned up upon the grass. Squaws, old and young, knife in hand, squat round, looking eagerly on as the captives lie flapping on the sward, and the harpies rush, seize a trout and rip him up, remove the inside, and then skewer him open with 2 sticks. Poles having a fork at the end and are placed firmly in the ground, about 15 feet apart. Other sticks, barked and rubbed very smooth, are placed in these forked ends on which the split trout are stung. Small fires are kept smoldering below the strung-up fish. When thoroughly dry, they are packed in bales and lashed with the bark of the cedar tree. The candlefish, or uchelon, head somewhat pointed and conical, mouth large, its fissures extending back to the interior margin of the orbit, opercule terminated by a rounded angle, lower jaw projecting a little beyond the upper one, tongue rough, teeth on the pharyngeals, lower jaw palatines, and bone devoid of teeth. Eye rather small, adipose fin, placed opposite the hind portion of the anal. Scales obliquely in the dorsal region, greenish olive color, generally silver white, sparsely spotted with dirty yellow, a dark spot nearly black over each orbit. A human body is a kind of locomotive furnace that is yet to be kept not up to a given temperature by fuel. Food under a tropical sun. Not much fuel is needed, and that of a sort that will not keep up a large fire. Man therefore wears clothes made from vegetable fibers and eat fruit and rice, the lowest in the scale of making materials. Far north among the polar ice where you cannot touch metal without it taking its skin off your fingers. The human locomotive is protected by thick coverings of fur. The native takes the jacket from his furry-footed companions and covers his own skin with them. But the grand oil springs, the locomotive necessary coal mines, and another form are in the bodies of the great seals and whales. Oil and blubber burn rapidly and give out a large amount of heat, with a fur suit outside, and inside a feed of seal's flesh washed down with the seal's oil. The stream of life is kept up very easily.